In Postville, Iowa, 2011, I met a Muslim who sent me on a 4-year journey to answer one question. How do I know which God is the right one? I quit my job and questioned everything I believed. Some of these I've already addressed on this channel, but this one is the most important. How do I prove who God is? More than 10,000 gods are worshipped around the world. Are any of them real? We could test every one of them, but I don't have the patience for the process of elimination. It is easier if we start with a blank slate and prove by experiment who the real God is. But this experiment will fail unless we first do one most important thing, something that everyone debating about God seems to miss. They never define the word God, or they assume God is whatever some specific religion teaches. We must define what it means to be God. Let me know if you think this is a fair definition. God is the highest power. Who cares about you? There are lots of layers of power, but if at some point the higher powers do not care about you and have no interaction with you, it's like they don't exist. I suppose the watchmaker God, who creates the world and never touches it again, would be up here. The hypothetical watchmaker is a creator, but not really God if he remains detached and uninvolved with the world forever. He forfeits the privilege of being God to whoever is the next most powerful, interested being. So this is a working definition of God, from God's perspective. We can refine it later if needed, but we need something more. This experiment that we are going to run to find God gets really interesting when we add a second definition. We need to define God from our perspective. We'll call this definition our local God to keep them straight. Our local God is whatever we care about most, the person or thing for which we would sacrifice everything. Here's the power of having these two definitions. When the God who cares about you and the God you care about are not aligned, that means their character and objectives are not the same, there is tension, like drama, stress, and fear. That tension is God's way of showing us who he really is. Let me share the story of my friend John to see how this plays out in real life. It gives you a whole different perspective on the struggles you're going through. When I moved to Los Angeles, John was single and had recently dropped out of community college. He was searching for a career, but he did it differently than most people. Most people pick a career that interests them and will make them some money. And then a few years later, they start a family. And all of a sudden, there is tension. Family and career both demanding more and more of their time, energy, and attention. These two local gods are competing and destroying our lives in the process. The way to find God is in the process of removing that tension. To remove the tension, you could run away from your family, but then you will be lonely and lose a wonderful part of life. Or you could quit your career, but then you won't be able to support your family and would lose an important sense of purpose. John found a different way. It was brilliant. Before picking a career, he said, "My family is my priority. So whatever career I get, it has to support my family, not pull us apart." John aligned to these two local gods. He said, "I need a career that pays enough to provide for our family and that allows me to spend evenings and weekends with them." John then tried a bunch of different jobs and researched even more. Any job that did not align with family, he quit. Now John is doing amazing in his sales career and just married an incredible woman who has the same goals and priorities as John. But John's story almost ended in tragedy. There is a third local God that makes the alignment process impossible if you don't know he is there. It's what stops most people from finding God. This other local God really prefers to stay invisible, but let's flush him out. Think about the greatest motivator in life, the desire to live. Humans do everything possible not to die. There is a tension there. Often we call it the fear of death. This is super important. That tension between life and death is a tension between the real God and that third local God, us. We are not God. But who is this most powerful God who cares so much about us? We're getting closer to an answer. The tension is guiding us. Whenever our way of life is not aligned with the character of God, the tension shows us that God is in the other direction. Imagine a child wanting to do his own thing, but his parents say no because it is dangerous. That tension between wills is teaching the child. The implications of this is fascinating, but scary too. Am I willing to cut off myself as a local God and align myself with the true God? Or will I reject whoever God is so that I can keep pretending I am God? Selfishness, pride, lust, and all the things that focus on self will produce tension, produce problems in our lives until we are willing to prioritize God and allow Him to align our lives with His character. But first, we must figure out who God is. Here's life. Lots of local gods, people, things, the natural world, self, idols, all pretending they are the real God. It's impossible to find the real God in all that noise. I'll give you a shortcut to do that in a second, but it's surprising how many people want to run the whole experiment. Here's the God experiment. First, map out all the things creating tension in your life. All your worries, fears, ambitions, passions, responsibilities, and limitations. Then be willing to let go of anything that is self-serving. We know we are not God, so those things are just distractions. Third, align everything that can be aligned. And last of all, cut off anything that cannot be aligned. What you will have left is a clear arrow pointing you directly to God. It can be a long, painful process to get to this point. So here's the shortcut. Anyone going through this process will always find that what they have left when all the distractions are taken away are the really good relationships in their lives that are built on love and trust. All these relationships require humility, honesty, and helpfulness. So that is the God you are looking for, a God who is humble, honest, and helpful, a God who wants to form a relationship with you through love and faith. How does that God compare with those 10,000 gods? I've not studied all of them, but here is one match I have found. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. But if a loving God wants a relationship with us, why do we all end up dead?